Hello everyone. Next, we'll be discussing Porter's strategic framework. Porter was a remarkable individual. He became a tenured professor at Harvard Business School at just 32. He's best known for two major contributions. First, Porter's 5 forces model, also known as the 5 forces. And second, his strategic framework. This framework outlines 3 generic competitive strategies. Today, we'll focus on Porter's strategic framework. Let's delve into how Porter categorizes competitive strategies. Let's distinguish between broad and narrow markets. For narrow markets, there's a specific strategy. It's known as a niche strategy. As for broad markets, they are further divided into 2 strategies. One is differentiation strategy, which targets specific groups by offering high-quality products. The other is known as cost leadership strategy, which utilizes a low-cost approach to attract customers. Let me briefly explain. Let's say, for some products, take smartphones, for instance. If you're a little older, you might remember a few years back, smartphones were really expensive. A typical smartphone would cost over 2,500 yuan, or even several thousand. And salaries back then weren't as high as they are now, right? They were pricey. But there was this one company that burst onto the scene, and everyone started getting their hands on affordable smartphones. Xiaomi, that's who, with their budget-friendly smartphones priced at 799 or 999 yuan, suddenly made smartphones a top priority. That was a game changer. It's crazy how fast time flies. In just a few short years, if you think back to those days, back then, all you could do on your phone was send messages, receive them. Just being able to see pictures was a huge deal. Then phones started to let you manipulate those pictures. You could use your fingers to stretch them out, zooming it out, and move them around. I thought that was pretty amazing. And then, for just 1,000 yuan, you could get a smartphone. That's a classic example of a cost leadership strategy. What does it mean? It's about using a lower pricing strategy to capture a wider market, to make my products accessible to more people. When the volume is large enough, I can profit from small margins and high volumes. This is the cost leadership strategy. The other strategy is the differentiation strategy. Differentiation strategy is actually quite straightforward. It's about doing something different from others. For instance, while everyone was making those basic phones, Apple, on the other hand, came up with the smartphone. Their smartphone had just one button. Everything was done by tapping on the screen. You could swipe things around on the screen. It was revolutionary. This was for something else entirely. So Apple's phone became an instant hit. Then came the iPhone 3, 4, 5, and now we have the iPhone 10, 11, 12, and so on. And they've remained popular ever since. That's how it distinguished itself from regular phones. This differentiation targeted a specific demographic, people with more discerning tastes, or those seeking a higher level of prestige. These people are willing to pay for that differentiation. They're willing to pay a premium to buy this kind of special, better service. Take the Apple iPhone, for example. It's a classic example of differentiation. But nowadays, as in the past few years, you probably don't see on an iPhone as much differentiation anymore. But if we go back a few years, it was truly unique. It was totally different from the others. You could even say it had a unique edge, and that wouldn't be an exaggeration. But things are different now. Let's look at it this way. Nowadays, all these phones are smartphones. Since they're all smartphones, how do you stand out? Like many companies and brands, they try to differentiate themselves. For instance, a few years back, Oppo had its music phone. Then there was Vivo's camera phone. And what was it? Charge for 5 minutes and talk for 2 hours. And the one that brightens your beauty, even against the light. They'll try to stand out somehow by offering all the standard features plus something extra special. That's also a way to stand out. Both of these approaches target the mass market. Lots of people want these products. So you either go for the cheaper option, maybe the one with better quality. That's how people choose. Another strategy is to target a niche market. Focusing on specific groups, products are developed just for them. Take phones, for example. There are phones designed for seniors. Besides young people who need phones, seniors do. Seniors often have hearing difficulties, so they need louder volume. Plus, when they grab things, their hands might be rough. They need really big buttons. The sound needs to be loud, and the buttons large. These phones are made for seniors. They're designed for seniors' needs. To make these phones, young people, though, won't use these senior phones, right? And for instance, like toddlers and young children. Take kindergarteners, for example, or first graders. Kids, they often have a kid's smartwatch. It combines a phone and a watch into one device. That's innovation, right? It has calling capabilities. It's integrated with a watch's functions. It's hard to lose on your wrist. It doesn't have many buttons. It has just one simple button. Just press the button to make a call, answer calls, and talk. This is specifically for very young children. It's specially designed. These are all strategies for niche markets. So among these strategies, which one is more profitable? You might be wondering. Actually, they can all be profitable if done well. If done well, they can definitely be profitable. But which one is the most profitable? Generally, it's the differentiation strategy. In today's market, take Huawei phones or Xiaomi phones and others like Oppo, Vivo and other brands have all secured their market share. As for Apple, its market share was reported in 2021 based on consumer data. The data showed it held a global smartphone market share of roughly 13%, but captured most of the global profits in the phone market, as high as 66%. As for other phones, like many of those in our country, many phone brands hold a combined market share of 67%. Yet their profits make up only 17% of the total. So what does this tell us? If you can truly differentiate yourself and stand out, you'll reap huge profits. This way, you can rake in tons of cash, but compared to that, it might not be as lucrative. Of course, with a large enough volume, if you could corner the entire market, you'd have it all. It wouldn't matter. Profit or not, it's all yours. You'd be raking it in. As for niche markets, in this field, because it only appeals to a niche market, so the revenue isn't huge, but the profit margins are pretty high. These kinds of products, they often have barriers to entry. Once these barriers are up, it's hard for others to break into the market. Take kids' smartwatches, for example. Most kids go for the Xiaomi brand, always, or Xiaomi smartwatches for kids. As for other brands, it's tougher to make a dent in the market. Each strategy has its advantages. These are all competitive strategies. But keep in mind, these competitive strategies aren't mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive.